Hello and welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz. The Seahawks are taking on the Carolina Panthers coming up on Sunday in their Week 3 matchup. They're coming off an overtime win against the Detroit Lions, but they are still looking for their first home win after a disappointing outing in their opener to the Rams. Joining me to preview the matchup is Jonathan Stewart of the Panthers. He's the host of Bleav in Carolina Panthers. He is a Pro Bowl running back, and he was selected 13th overall in the 2008 NFL Draft. Went on to play 11 seasons in the NFL. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm fired up for this matchup, Jonathan. The Carolina Panthers are an interesting team in part because, they took the top quarterback in the draft this year with the first overall pick, and it's only been 2 full games now in the regular season. But what's been your assessment of Bryce Young so far?
I love everything about him. I mean, I think, there's the obvious rookie struggles, especially when you have a banged up offensive line. He's learning, how to position himself in the pocket, how fast the game is. There's a lot of things that he's learning, and for some guys, it comes quicker than the others. And then also too, everybody's situation is different. So I think he's handled everything the right way. The off season, his preparation. His first game, 2 interceptions. Second game, no interceptions. I think he obviously went into, the week understanding where he's making his mistakes, and you like to see that type of growth out of a rookie quarterback where he learns one thing from one week and carrying it into the next.
What do you think about that argument that, some people say, hey, it's better for a guy to come in the league and kind of get a sense of how things go just from the bench and not, get thrown into live action right away. But with the first overall pick, there's a lot of pressure to see how that guy's going to do right away on the field. Does it depend on the player? Does it depend, or is it just a mindset of, hey, we got to get this guy action, and that's the best way to learn?
I think he's, at the end of the day, when you're drafted first round, when you're like my running back coach always said, I don't care if you come in as a rookie, you're not a rookie. I don't care if you're a vet, you're not a vet. You're a pro. And you have to take your day-to-day as a professional athlete. Your preparation is as if you are the starter, no matter what, because you never know when your number is going to be called upon. And so I look at Bryce Young, drafted first round, drafted, the last pick. It doesn't really matter. Your opportunity to shine comes. You got to be ready. And I think his preparation and the way he goes about his business and his mentality, it's not one of any typical rookie from that standpoint. So the Carolina Panthers putting him as the starter, it's a no-brainer. I think he's had, the Carolina Panthers are struggling as a whole entire offensive unit, right? It's not just one guy. It's not just Bryce. It's not just the offensive line. They are figuring themselves out as a unit. They're a new coaching staff. You have all these things that, a team that has been together for 4 years, they struggle trying to find themselves at the beginning of the year, let alone the Carolina Panthers. This is the first time that they are going into the regular season together as a unit. So there's a lot of things that they're discovering about themselves, and you have a rookie quarterback that is leading this offense and doing a tremendous job of doing so. Just give it some time. You're going to have to give it some time, especially when you have 2 guards that are missing. That doesn't help the situation at all.
Well, one of the things that we've seen through the first couple of weeks, though, is that one of the nice things about Young is that he has that athleticism to get outside the pocket and still look downfield and deliver, with Adam Thielen having a solid game, especially this last week against the Saints. What are some of those things that the Carolina coaches can do to really help, knowing that, I mean, we've seen it with the Seahawks too. Their second year tackles both out. They found ways to buy Geno a little bit of extra time. What are some of the things that the Carolina team could do, knowing that it's going to be a little bit more difficult having injuries at the guard spots?
Well, for every offense, it's important to establish the run. And so if we can establish the run, for offensive linemen, they would rather block a run play than a pass play to begin with, right? So establish the run. You got, Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders. Get those guys active early and often, and then play action, right? We haven't really been able to connect anything down the field consistently. So I mean, if you can run the ball and get these guys, get the safeties coming into the box, shoot one down the field. I think DJ Chark is feeling better. So we got some speed back into the lineup, get him into a rhythm, because that was his first game back last week as well. Get these guys, moving on defense, and you'll find some success in the passing game. And so that's one way to do it is establish the run.
You mentioned that offensive linemen would prefer to run the ball and than pass block. Why is that?
I mean, because you actually are taking it to them. It's easier to see a target and and a spot on the field where you're supposed to be and go. You dictate what's going on with the person across from you. You know what I'm saying? Whereas pass block, you have to get into your set and kind of see what the defense is doing, with a stunt here and there. Whereas an offense, whereas a run game, you're pulling, and whoever is in the way, you destroy that person. So, and I think that's just something that just comes natural for offensive linemen.
What do you expect the biggest strength of the Panthers that it's going to be for them this season?
Their defense. I think, obviously we lost Shaq Thompson this past game, which is a huge blow to us. But I think still yet, the defensive mindset, our defensive coordinator and everything that he's implemented in the off season, us getting to the quarterback, I think is like one of the biggest things. I mean, whenever you have a 3-4 defensive mentality, that's what you're trying to do, is get to the quarterback. Brian Burns, Frankie Louvu, Derek Brown, those guys, being able to cause a ruckus up front, I think that's definitely a strength, and it helps our secondary out a ton.
You mentioned those three names on the defensive line that I think Seahawks fans should end up knowing, or will end up knowing most likely by the end of this game on Sunday. Who are some of the guys at in the back end of the defense that we should know?
Oh, Von Bell, the new addition to the Carolina Panthers secondary this offseason. He's, to me, the glue there. He's the new vet that comes with his hard hat. He knows ball. He's a smart player, always around the ball, and he will lay the hat. Jeremy Chin, he's a guy that they have pretty much labeled as a joker in a sense. Like he can play anything. He can play linebacker, safety, line up in nickel, all those things that you want out of a player that can be a playmaker on defense. Come after the quarterback, get a sack, find yourself in the flat, breaking on the ball, cover downfield, all those things he can do.
Yeah, talk about Chin, because you say joker, meaning he's a versatile player in the secondary. I think one of the things when the Seahawks acquired Jamal Adams and his ability to rush the passer, his ability to play in the secondary and almost be even kind of a linebacker, they hope that he can be that type of guy. He might be back this week. Any thoughts on Jamal Adams?
I think he's a great player. I love his mindset. Love what he brings to the table, and he's exactly that type of guy that you want on defense that can change the game. He'll take some risk. He'll see things differently than a lot of guys would see it, and take a chance. And you want a player out there that's willing to take a chance to make a big play. And I feel like he's that type of guy. And when you're in offense, you have a guy like Jeremy Chin, Jamal Adams. You're in your preparation in your meetings. Those are the guys that are showing up on who's your foe, and you got to make sure you prepare for those guys.
I want to go back to the idea of establishing the run with the Carolina Panthers offense because they brought in Miles Sanders in the offseason. They have Chuba Hubbard on the roster. It feels like they've leaned more on Sanders here through these first 2 weeks. Do you expect it to continue that way, or do you think that they try and get Hubbard involved a little bit more?
I would like to see, there's never ever really a true, when you're going tandems, there's really no true expectation of who's going to get more carries. But I would like to see them utilize Chuba Hubbard more.
Yeah.
The first game against the Falcons, we ran the ball pretty tough. We had, I think, 100 yards or something like that this past game, but that was mainly from Bryce Young scrambling, and I think Miles Sanders had 14 carries, and Chuba Hubbard had 2. I would like to see him with more carries, to be honest. And I know like the game, goes certain ways, and it was a weird game. It was Monday Night Football. Everybody's amped up and juiced up, and you want to, as an offensive coordinator, you want to, show your hand a little bit. You don't want to, especially a standstill of a 3-3, 6-3, and then you have your 13-6, and then that type of scoring going on throughout a game kind of gets, to the boring aspect of ball. But sometimes you got to, just chalk it up and say, this is what that type of game is going to be. Let's just run the ball and get out of here with a win and establish a run. And I think Chuba Hubbard is a great runner. Last year he came on the scene. I think that the Detroit game definitely stands out, in my opinion, where he was running with a lot of determination, and you want that type of player holding the ball in tough games and especially in an environment like Seattle. You got to figure out a way to, go into that environment and bring it to, your opponent. And I think that's one way to do it is, take a guy like Chuba, give him some more carries, mix it up with Miles Sanders because he's special too. I mean, the first run that he had against, shucks, who did we just play?
Before the Saints?
The Saints. Yeah. The Miles Sanders. So the first play, Miles Sanders broke off a 13-yard run. And it was right off the left side. And he gave a little hezzy. So his patience and his vision, his feel for running the ball, like that's an element that guys, you can't really game plan for a guy like that. You know what I'm saying? So giving the ball, getting him in space like that allows him to like be who he is in the run game. But you got to be able to call those things and dial those things up and execute. You can't just, back off that type of game plan. You got to implement it and you got to trust it, and it's got to be within your DNA. And I think adding the mixture of Chuba, the way he runs, it's, he's great at setting up blocks. He's gotten really good at understanding, where is this play supposed to end up? And he's able to kind of create something out of nothing a little bit because of his size, the way he runs, breaking tackles, all those types of things. But both of them are great backs. Just want to see them both utilized more.
I'm kind of curious on your thoughts of the tandem dynamic because with the Panthers, I mean, you were part of great running back tandems during your time in the league, and the team found ways to get the ball both to you and whoever was sharing the backfield with you. How did that dynamic work with whoever you were playing with?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's really all about, what, specialty do you have, right? Like you look at Fozzie Whitaker, running back from Texas. He's a speed guy. So you want to implement him, on the edge. But at the same time, it would actually do you good to run him just like any other running back. If you run a power play with him, like these guys are preparing not just to be so specific within a game plan, just because, like I look at how Christian McCaffrey is. Like at first they tried to label him as a slash guy and
Right.
a guy that can play, the slot. No, he can do absolutely everything really well, and he prepares that way. And when you dial these things up for these types of guys, they'll take off and run with it and be exactly who you want them to be and more. So definitely been a part of a lot of, tandems. D'Angelo Williams, like, that span was, it was the easy days. It was like, hey, it's 3rd down and 8. Let's hand the ball off to Jonathan or D'Angelo on a draw. You know what I'm saying? So, like people, that's the type of stuff that I'm used to in the sense of the commitment to the run game, because it is possible and it is doable to commit, that level of interest into your game plan. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Just because a guy is maybe good at one thing, don't pigeonhole him into that one particular thing.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's how it kind of went for you. After these first couple weeks, do you have an idea of what this Panthers team can do this season? Should they take the approach that this is a rebuilding year, or is this, should they take the approach that, hey, once Bryce can have some experience under his belt, that maybe they can challenge for this division? What are your thoughts on that?
You're going into every single year with the mindset that, hey, it's a Super Bowl year. This is why we play the game. We don't play this game to, settle for, oh, well, maybe we'll come in 3rd in our division. No, not at all. Now, like, is their situation different than all of the other teams in our division? You can argue, yeah, especially now with a lot of the injuries that we've caught. But the preparation and the mentality is we got to win every game. And what better way to develop your franchise quarterback, the number 1 draft pick, with that mindset, giving him the platform to say, hey, you're going out to Seattle in a tough environment. This can be your moment that can carry over for the rest of the year. You can be the guy that, channels this inner, competitiveness within your team to go out and challenge, the rest of, your schedule, and letting your presence be known to everybody that you play. Like, you definitely don't go into a season thinking, oh, this is a rebuild year. So for any fans that are out there saying to themselves, oh, this is a rebuild year. No, don't just, it's been 2 games. It's only been 2 games. And the fact of the matter is that we were in both games with injuries, with some obvious mistakes. And so if we get the thing rolling, once this offense finds themselves, take a lot of pressure on off of the defense, I mean, we'll be right back into this thing, right? So everybody, don't don't trip out too hard.
You talk about playing in an environment in Seattle. What are some of the things that either you did or did as a team to play in that environment, particularly in Seattle?
I feel like, when we played in Seattle, we obviously prepared for the noise. So we definitely, brought out, the loudspeakers and pumped noise out into the practice. So communication, over, offense and defense, just the whole entire, 3 parcels of the team. So, you gotta be able to communicate. And you got to be able to deal with the noise, and you got to be able to deal with, the environment, because it is a different type of feel when you go to Seattle to play against the Seahawks. The fans are electric, but one thing I know for sure through experience is, once you put it on them and you put it on early, it's not that bad. So if you go out there and you score, or you go out there and your first downs are, 5-yard gains, like now you have a 2nd and 5, like things get, progressively easier as an offense as you're moving down the field. The noise all of a sudden dies down a little bit. So you just got to make sure you go in there and you lay your work on display the right way.
He is Jonathan Stewart, the host of Bleav in Carolina Panthers. He was a Pro Bowl running back during his time there. Jonathan, before you get on out of here, what are your expectations here coming up for Sunday?
My expectations for Sunday is that we found a way to establish the run. The two guard positions right now, that they step up and play, like they are the professional, like they know what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, this is an opportunity. Guys get injured, you got to step up. I expect our defense to hold their own, understanding that the Seahawks just came off of a game where they found themselves again. And so they have confidence going into this game. So you got to make sure you get after that quarterback. Get after Geno, make your presence known, and we got to make sure we're opportunistic, because that's exactly who the Seahawks defense is. So I'm pretty sure they're going to dial things up for our rookie quarterback and try to confuse him and whatnot. And so as a defense, expect to go into this game needing to get some turnovers, and be opportunistic ourselves. But I definitely think this is a winnable game for us, and I'm excited to watch.
Well, I hope it is also a winnable game for the Seahawks, because they need that first home win. I'm not happy about starting off the season with a loss at home. It would really stink to continue that, but we've seen in the past that they can have trouble with a team with a solid run game. Hopefully they figure that out this week. Jonathan, coming up on Bleav in Carolina Panthers, what do you got going on?
We're just doing a good job right now, just sharing, our knowledge and our fanship for the Panthers. We're diehard no matter what. It's been pretty cool being able to get a chance to talk football with these guys. So check us out. We're on once a week. We'll probably dial some more things up as the season continues.
Definitely check it out and stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to our show on YouTube, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. Jonathan, thanks once again for coming on. And with that, there's only one thing left to say. Go Hawks.